The content discussed in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or mortgage advice. Always consult with a licensed professional before making any decisions regarding mortgages or financial matters.
Welcome to the Canadian Mortgage Show. Here are mortgage professionals Alex Pang and Alex Shanks to cut through the BS and educate Canadians on all things mortgages and real estate.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Mortgage Show. This is episode 30. Alex Pang here with my co-host Alex Shanks. Alex, how's the second week of spring break for you guys?
It's like I said, last pod there, where we're going on a long time with kids at home, and I feel like it's been a year. I feel like it's been a year. It hasn't. It's only been 2 weeks of that, but we were also traveling. But got to take my son up snowboarding for the first time, so it was still a good day.
Awesome. It's one of those things where the kids are enjoying it, but after a few days, you're already thinking, "Are you guys back to school yet?"
Yeah, and that's your kids are older, so it's even probably a bit easier. But mine are just like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and then I'll be like, "Oh, let's go do that." Oh, I don't want to do that. And it's, okay, I can't just tell them to go to their bedroom. You can tell your kids.
Yeah, our kids' spring break is a week earlier, so they went back to school this week. But at Sunday night, they're all like, "Oh." And then my oldest was already counting down how many days to the end of the year. I'm like, "You're graduating. Take it back. Enjoy this moment." Of course, you want to get out, but once you're older, you got to think back. Those were the golden years when you're in high school, when stress was less. And now, being in our middle age,
I was my last half semester. I took 2 months off to go and work, actually, and I only had half days. I had enough credits that I only had to go to school for half the time, and so I always said, I'll hang out. I would hang out with friends at certain times, but I would usually sleep in, come to school a little bit later. And so it was there, but I definitely know I was like, I just want to get out of here too.
Yeah, I'm sure like grade 12 too, like even the teachers are the same thing when you just got to see out the time and everyone's already checked out and let's just mail it in and no issues there. But yeah, we got a jam-packed show. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get it. We're going to start with some of the election stuff, which is it's all really the great thing of everything that's going on here now. People is, hey, let's not talk about left. Let's not talk about right. It's competition. We are actually finally seeing them trying to do things that are going to benefit us, the Canadians. And that's where having that competition, especially during this, is great. And this is where we talk about like the Ogalaka bees and stuff. They don't have to do any competition because they just have everything and that we just have to pay them for it.
Let me just correct your English there. It's called oligopoly.
Oligopoly. That's what you're here for, Alex. You're here to get that.
Yeah, so what Alex was alluding to, this past Sunday, Mark Carney did what we thought he was going to do. He's called an election, and the election is called for April the 28th. So at the time he called it, still like that. They're pretty neck to neck in the polls. Some polls have the Liberals ahead. Other polls have the Conservatives ahead. Who's right? We don't know. But there's one thing was that we found out, or we talked about it last week, was Carney is running in the Nepean, Ontario region. That's, I believe, is the Ottawa region. The Liberals kicked out MP Chandra Arya so that Carney can run. And their reasoning they're giving is that he has ties to India, which
this doesn't make any sense to me because, again, aren't we the people, the ones that voted for that person? I understand like how Mark Carney got into power just to be in the Liberal seat because all of them voted, but didn't those people in Nepean like vote for Chandra Ari? Like and so what happens? What happens here is, let's say if the Liberals win everywhere else, but he doesn't win his seat. Is he still allowed to be the prime minister even if he hasn't?
I was wondering about that too. Barbara Bal is the Conservative candidate, and I've seen her on X that her X following grew from 1,400 to 50,000. So there maybe like my feeds are a lot of conservative, like a lot of politics going on, but that would be funny if Barbara Bal defeats Mark Carney in that riding.
That would be very hilarious. And I just don't, I guess I don't understand the Canadian politics enough of that. What if he doesn't win that riding? Can he still be prime minister, or does he have to win a riding to be the prime minister?
I have no clue. But you know what? The Canadian politics is now it's gotten exciting. In years past, it was boring, but now this is the days of our lives.
That's the thing is I feel like it's like the US now, like we're getting into like game shows, and Carney backed out of the French language debate with Poilievre, and he says it was because he didn't want to pay the cost of it or something? Was that like his reasoning for not doing it?
No, I believe his excuse was because the Green leader, Elizabeth May, wasn't invited. That was their total excuse. And when he backed out of the French language channel, it was TVA. And one of the people mentioned that you don't back up from TVA because TVA is, I guess it's like the BBC of Quebec. Yeah. So yeah, it's not a good look on Carney. Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Now this is where we start to see the two parties. We have other parties here in Canada, but it's really two parties. So we already talked about Carney plans to remove the GST on new home purchases up to $1 million for first-time home buyers. That was cool. Now, conservatives had already talked about that 4 months ago, and they're now saying, "Oh, we're doing this." Carney's taking a lot of stuff from the conservatives. Now, what Pierre came back after and said, "Hey, we'll actually do it up to 1.3 million." So again, like we're breeding competition. Now, they can say whatever they want. Obviously, like I could say, "Hey, I'm going to do it to 2 million." Doesn't mean they have to do it, but it is nice to see like they're trying to do what they're going to say to make us vote for them.
Yes, exactly. Now with Pierre's, it's not just limited to first-time buyers. Based on the announcement or whatever, it didn't say anything about limiting to first-time buyers. So it looks like it's to everybody, brand new.
And this is where I was actually talking to a realtor about this, and she brought up a good opinion on it. Is I think it should be for first-time home buyers, but it also should be for the older population, because a lot of people, they're downsizing. They can't afford like some of these bigger homes that they're in, but also for them to go and get like a brand new build, which probably would make more sense for them. They bought a home, so they don't get this. And that's where, let's say, hey, they don't remove it for every buyer, but I think they should look at definitely first-time home buyers. And even do the older population.
Downsizers, yeah. No, that's definitely a good one there. Speaking of Carney, this was actually today. We're recording on a Thursday. Maybe this is political suicide. Maybe we should have a political commentator come on. But he's basically saying that the reason why he, instead of making a trip to the States to talk to Trump, as soon as he became prime minister, he went to Europe. And I guess he was justifying it by saying, the relationship Canada had with the US is over, and that we need to strengthen ties with Europe. I understand in this world that we live in now, it shone a light on how reliant we are to the US. Yeah. However, this tariff war plays out, we're going to get resolved and we're going to be hugging the US again. But that's not good for them to say, like, it's like saying, I want a divorce, and we're really happening. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's obviously the same thing as what Trump's doing. It's a power move. He's same time Trump's saying, hey, you should just become the 51st state and everything. And I think it's just more of a word game, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're obviously like there's communication somewhere, but again, is it Trump and Carney, or is it the people that are below that? And that's I think it's just trying to say, hey, if you want to be mean to us, we're not going to come talk to you.
Yeah. Right now there's a whole lot of grandstanding. A lot of politicking that's going on. More things have been coming out from the Conservatives. Pierre Poilievre is promising to cut taxes by 15% for the average Canadian. So it'll save an average of $2,000 in taxes, whereas Carney and the Liberals has promised only 1% reduction in taxes.
And my only question is like, Pierre, like the way that the Conservatives doing it's 15%. Don't just think, I'm going to save the calculation is on a different amount. And so that's why 2,000 is the average amount. Like someone that makes less is not going to save 2,000. Is that 1% that Carney's talking about? Is it 1% as a whole? Or is it just, hey, instead of that 15, it's just 1? I haven't seen the calculations for the Liberals of what's the actual tax cut going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some other things that it seems like Conservatives really are going full court press on their promises, where they're doing like tax cuts and all that. And there's another one that they mentioned here is that they're doing a tax cut. You're mentioning for seniors too. They're doing a tax cut for seniors to earn up to $34,000 tax free, and you can grow your RSP up to extending it from 71, where you right now you have to convert it to a RIF, but they are increasing that to 73. And they're going to keep the retirement age at 65 versus there was talk that to increase it to 67 and stuff. But yeah, they're going to keep it at 65.
But that's like the growing. It's more because most people just can't retire at 65 now. Like I would be interested to know what the average like. Now again, there's lots of people that retired thinking that they were okay, and then they all had to go back to work. But I would be interested to know. That's the thing is the RIF is just it's very not friendly for people that have to pull funds. Like you have to take a certain amount. Where your RSP, you can just leave it all in there, and so giving that flexibility is definitely going to be nicer for people. Same thing. Let's say if someone is 70 right now and they want to sell properties, if they didn't have their RSP, they couldn't try and offload some of their capital gains as well. And so this just gives a little bit more flexibility that way.
Pierre's not done. There's one more thing, isn't there?
He's going. And this one I really like. And it's I think our TFSAs used to be higher, definitely under the Conservatives. And then the Liberals took it away. I can't remember how much they dropped it, but Pierre's saying that they're going to allow you to on extra of $5,000 per year into your TFSA, which that is an amazing. And just like in case people don't understand the TFSA, it's just the vehicle. That's not the investment. You have to get investment advice for what you actually should invest. But the whole benefit of a TFSA, and depending on what age you're at, when you put the money, you've already paid taxes on the money. You've paid the taxes. You now get to put that money, if you put $5,000 in it, and let's say you invested in something and you made $1 million, you could take that $1 million out and you pay no taxes. And that's the great thing. And us like being younger, it makes more sense for us to load up our TFSA than an RSP. Because when we take from our RSP, we do have to pay the taxes on it when we withdraw it.
Alex, tell me which investment that you're going to make $1 million off of 5,000. Tell me about it, and I'm going to invest. I love that example.
Dogecoin, a little Bitcoin, something. You never know.
I think Alex is really referring to $5,000 on black, baby.
It's a gamble, but and again, you have to sit down with a financial planner and an accountant to figure out. Because RSPs, I always find it so funny. There's different financial planners that say RSPs are horrible. You don't make money on them. Then there's other people that say you need to use your RSPs, and so they're the way to stack them in the right way. Of hey, yes, it makes sense to put money into your RSP, and it makes sense to do it in your TFSA. You just have to know what's actually going to help you the best.
I think really it depends on your work situation. If you're a salaried employee and your company does some RSP matching, then it makes sense because it's free money. Why not? Now, I'm speaking for myself. I'm self-employed. And we're both self-employed. We don't have RSPs. This is my opinion. I don't believe in RSPs because I'd rather put it away and save that money myself. You might have a different stance on it, but it might not make sense for us.
Totally. It depends on my company is my pension. And so the whole reason why, when we can dive into this again, I think with the tax person, but the reason why I like my company is I only pay 11% tax on the income inside the company. When I take the funds out, I obviously have to pay depending on what my marginal tax bracket is. It 24? Is it 36? Is it 40? And so I can only take out what I actually need to live on. If I only need 60,000, I'm in like a 28% tax bracket. And so it helps you save money there. Now, the whole benefit of RSP is, let's say, hey, I did want to take out, say, 100,000. I could put 10,000 in my RSP and also get a tax return. And so there's flexibility. But I do agree with you, Alex. Like to me right now, RSPs don't make sense because I'm trying to pay myself low. I don't need it. And I'd rather build up my RSP room because I do have real estate that if I have to sell one day, I need to offload for capital gains protection. Because what happens, let's say right now my income's only 65 and I go and sell something and my capital gains goes up to 250,000. I can offload 150,000 into my RSP, which is going to drop my income from 250 down to the 150. And that's a massive tax saving. So that's the reason why I'm not using it right now, is because I am planning for the future.
Yeah, it sounds like for us who use RSPs is more to offset taxes versus actually saving for a retirement, because we have us self-employed, we have other vehicles to do that, and we can talk about it in another pod. But totally. Speaking of all this politic talk between liberals and conservatives, there's a Nanos poll showing who Canadians would vote for based on age demographic. And we'll have our producer put up the graphic here. basically shows that the Liberals are ahead only in one age category, and that's 60 plus, the boomers. Whereas every other age category, working class up until 59, is the Conservatives are leading. How do you feel about that?
It makes sense, and this is, I think I've talked about this before in other pods. Like I've talked to some of the older people, and it's I'm so scared if the Conservatives come into power is that that real estate's going to go down. Like that is their fear, is that their home prices are going to go down, which that means they're only caring about themselves. They do not care about every other person out there. I'll tell you right now, I'd be fine if my real estate portfolio went down by 200,000. I would be perfectly fine with that, knowing that it's going to help other people to be able to get in there, because it's in the long run. Now, I still got 30 years left. They might need that funds next year, the year after, so I can understand their fear. But again, they also made a lot of money.
Yeah, especially like the boomers. My goodness, in the last 15, 20 years, our real estate has doubled, if not 2x, 3x. Of course, if you've owned a property, you've done really well. But like we've mentioned this before, Canada is not very productive as a society. We are reliant on just buying real estate, and not like in the States where we're trying to be we're not trying to be innovative and have companies and businesses and such. I mentioned it a few podcasts ago. The top 5 companies in Canada are financial related. Like most of them are financial related. Whereas in the States, they're more like tech industry, like the Amazons, the Googles, the Metas, all that stuff. And was showing that like we want society to be like Canada to be more productive, and we can't just rely on real estate to make the world go round. Even though Alex and I are in the industry, yes, we would love that, but we want Canada to be productive in other ways.
I want to know that my kids can have a better job, not being like, okay, we're just gonna have to rely on real estate here to hopefully you guys can have some money when you graduate.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Oh, that'd be great if our house becomes $3 million. Ooh, that's great for us. But our kids is gonna buy that shoebox condo in the sky for $1 million. There's no way they can afford it, and unless we give them half the money as a down, which it's a game that will not end well.
Yeah. And that's where, we need it. And it's going to be really interesting to see, because we go back before the polls were showing Conservatives were so far ahead. Now it's changed a bit, and it's just going to be interesting to see. And it's going to be interesting to see, did Pierre hurt himself with not really coming out, talking about the tariffs and everything? Or is it just right now the news is just pushing stuff that everyone else wants to see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And then we get into, I don't even know how to say this guy's name, but Bloc Quebec is Blanche. Is that how you say his? I was going to say his last name there.
Blanchet.
Yeah, and he's opposing the East Pipeline, saying that they don't want the pipeline to run from east to west, which he's been doing that for years. And pretty much they just don't want anything to come into Quebec. And he would be fine with it, but you got to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like you got like it really goes to show that there's too much infighting. Like we want this Canada to be united, but because we have Quebec that's sitting right in the middle, they're not letting anybody through the club kind of thing. And it's really hurting, and it's shone a light on especially what's going on with the tariff war. Geez, we want to build, or we want to have some pipelines, or we want to have some infrastructure in between, but we're not helping ourselves with this. And like Blanchet even mentioned, his name's Yves-Francois Blanchet, even says later on, Quebec will play nice with Canada for now, but come next year in October, he's eyeing a full-blown independence referendum. I don't know. This seems like old news to me. This has been going on since I was in school in the 90s.
Oh, it's insane. Come on. Like, again, like, are we a country together? Or are we not? Like, it to me, it just, and again, I feel the way that we do our elections by the seats and everything, it gives Quebec too much power because of the way that, again, they have a higher population and they have more seats and everything. It just, again, they have too much power.
Yeah, no, exactly. What is their end game? Like, if you have to have your own nation, you need your own military, you need to set up all this stuff. One person on X actually mentioned, obviously tongue in cheek, we should have a referendum whether we should keep them or not. I'm like, that'd be something.
Yeah, yeah. Even if you guys want it, you're not here anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Now, talking about the election, do you remember the former housing minister and immigration minister, Sean Fraser? He said he was going to step down and not run for re-election because maybe he was seeing that Trudeau's ship was sinking and he just wanted to jump ship or just leave.
Well,
he changed his mind.
Yeah.
So he's going to seek re-election now. Oh, maybe now that liberals are neck and neck and conservatives, now I'll come back. I don't know.
And again, but the problem is that he never came out and said, hey, I made some mistakes with like immigration and everything. And I think he's always said, oh, Holmes, like we've done everything in the right way. It's, man, there's a lot of stuff. And hey, no one is perfect. He could have just said, hey, you know what? We should have adjusted quicker. We should have done these things. Just no one ever takes any accountability.
Mm. No, I mean, Australia did it. The Bank of Australia actually admitted, like, hey, we shouldn't have said those things. Like, rates were really low for a long time, and borrow. They actually admitted it. Tiff Macklem, did he not do it? No. But yeah, this just makes the Liberals look so bad. They're just shuffling the deck chairs. And for the folks in Canada, like, if you want change, we have the power to do that April the 28th. Do we want to reelect the same people that have ruined the country in the last 10 years? And you can tell by the way I'm talking who I'm going to vote for, but just have an educated, think about what's happening. Oh, I don't like Pierre because he reminds me of Trump. If you want to vote back whoever, the Liberals, guess what happened the last 10 years? Our country has gone downhill. Do you want that to happen again? So yeah, my son he's turning 18. And he will actually be able to vote. So we're going to have to, me and my wife are going to have that talk with him. Hey, don't just vote for who you think looks cool and stuff. Like, actually make your vote count, because we live in a very fortunate country to be able to vote and make a difference.
Yeah, and that's why I remember my first time I ever voted is my parents. I just said, who are you guys voting for? And they said, no, like you got to go, you go and do your research. You go, and yeah, they made me go look up everything that way. And again, we never really talked about, we never said, oh, I voted for that. But again, I know each of my parents are a bit different than each other of who they would vote for and everything. And that's where, I mean, it's so hard. I want change, and I understand the people's fear with Pierre, and it's hard because of all the other stuff with Trump right now, bringing that so to light. And I can understand. I think that's where Pierre kind of messed up, is like, he really should have started to show like, hey, I'm not that. I feel like he was better. I honestly think he was better with his glasses on. I find when he didn't, now that he doesn't have glasses, I definitely get more reminders of, okay, is this guy actually fully here for us, or is he just solely saying this to make himself look good? The
alternative, and you look at Carney, he didn't even live.
No, don't get me wrong. I don't like. Yeah. But it just, I understand the people's fear and everything. And of course, like, hey, we vote him in. It's okay. What if I just feel like we're in just altogether, like all the people, we don't have great choices at the moment, which does suck.
My wife even said, I don't want to vote Pierre because Pierre is like Canada's Trump. I'm like, I don't want to get into an argument with her, because you and I, because we talk about it more in the pod, maybe our point of view is more on the financial housing side, and we know like clearly what the direction is pointing towards, whereas she's on a different side, and I don't know. I don't want to get into it with her and hurt her marriage, but yeah, just folks haven't educated, do the research, and who you want to vote for. Take a look at the past too.
Don't just listen to Alex and I here for one, and don't listen to the news, because again, the news is very good at pushing one narrative. That's the most important thing. Social media, you can go down a dark path of, it's going to show you only negative for the Liberals, only negative for the Conservatives. I force my social media. I watch. I might like Conservatives videos more, but I make sure I watch other videos. I want to get both sides of everything, and that's what people really need to do. And we're not good at doing that anymore. I find people just stick with their one thing. They're like, no, that person's wrong. I don't care what they say.
Absolutely. You know what? It's actually been a light news week for tariffs, but
I know. I feel like we're not the tariff show anymore.
Yeah, but you know what? Trump did announce tariff announcement. He is announcing a 25% tariff for all non-US made vehicles. Now, yeah, I think that's effective immediately. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, I saw that one coming like that. The car industry is what I really feel like he's trying to get after. And I think I saw Hyundai they're going to spend like $21 billion to bring manufacturing into the US and everything. So you could say what he did is in that case is working. If he's brought $21 billion into the country, it's maybe what he did is actually working then.
Yeah, this isn't going to happen overnight. If you want to bring all like right now, there's a lot of trading back and forth from Canada and US, mainly Windsor to Detroit, essentially. And like a manufacturer's not going to just do it overnight because Trump and yeah, it takes years to do, right? It takes, yeah, it costs billions of dollars and it's like trying to move a cruise ship. It doesn't happen overnight. It'll take years for that to happen. And even if you start today, it may not fully complete that changeover for 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah,
so
it just depends on how scared. Like right now, like the ones like GM, there's a lot of companies in Ontario that they've already spent billions. Like they're pretty cemented here. But the issue is, what if the car industry starts slowing down? That's people fear changes even everything else. It's just fear, and that's where it's just going to be interesting to see. And I mean, I've already started getting some builders like sending stuff like the tariffs are here. Like I didn't realize that they were, but then I forgot like there was some stuff that got through like on our side to from the US to us, and same thing from us to the US that did get tariff, and it's already being added to bills. Like builders are paying for stuff, windows and everything. The windows, the glass is all from Canada. The caulking they have to use, that's from the US, and it's already getting surcharged. There's either just a surcharge rate or a 12.5% tax on top of it. And my only fear with this, the one company I saw, and I'm going to post some stuff on my social media, is that they're very transparent. They're saying, hey, we're only charging the extra amount that we're being charged. I would like to see that number so I could actually say, hey, is that all you're charging? Or are you adding a little bit of an extra premium there?
Yeah, I can see a lot of industries try to hide behind that
Exactly.
tariff to increase, especially the food industry, right? We've seen countless times where Loblaws and Walmart or whoever, all the food or Sobeys have record-breaking profits, even though like food inflation it's gone up, but not as much as the prices have shown here. Now, Global News on their website, they put an interesting animated map showing the tariff war and that Canada would lose more in a trade war than US. It's obvious because they are 9 times bigger in terms of population than us. Now, this graph here, again, we're going to have this thrown up on the video side, that our trade in goods to the US makes up 68% of our global exports, whereas the US trading to up makes up 14% of their exports. So it's going to hurt us more than them, but ultimately it will hurt consumers one way or another, both sides of the border. US tariffs on Canada will hurt the Americans because their prices will be higher. Same thing I don't think any car is made in Canada, like fully. And so, yeah, all US products will be 25% more. Will essentially, when you constrain supply, then domestic supply, guess what? It'll go up because there's less competition, and it'll just be more expensive for everyone all over.
Yeah. And that's right. I know we're talking here, like there's hundreds of Canadian workers in the steel and aluminum sectors that are already being laid off due to these. Now, what I've been seeing on some of these is it's just the companies aren't doing anything. They're frozen right now because they don't know, is this going to come in? We don't want to keep bringing in material. We don't want to be paying people. So some places are just like closing up shop at the moment and just waiting to see what's going to happen, which is leaving now hundreds of people without jobs.
Yeah. Right now it's just hundreds. I believe it's just more of the admin staff, but we can see if this trade war prolongs and drags out, we can see this number go into the hundreds of thousands. Hundreds of thousands, absolutely. Now, the layoffs has not just been limited to the steel and aluminum sector and auto as well. We've been hearing rumblings too in the grapevine that thousands of RBC employees have started laying people off.
On Reddit, it was just like post after post, and it was like my division, this division, lots of insurance people. Insurance was like really like heavily laid off.
Yeah, especially in the banking industry too. We mentioned it last pod. Rocket Mortgage closed up shop in Canada. And there was just a sidetrack here. I was just looking at another industry website, True North, which is a large mortgage brokerage. That's a discount brokerage. They hired about a good 2/3 of the Rocket Mortgage staff. So it's good that True North has those employees who got laid off found new employment with True North mortgages there. So it's good
One
on
thing
that
I heard
end.
from I had some clients that was just helping them with the renewal. It made so sense to go anywhere else. I just told them, hey, you should go in, and they were at Scotia. They've been like their system, like the mail that they got was horrible rates, like 5.5%, where we know that that's not where rates are. What Scotia and I think other banks are trying to do this is they're trying to get rid of like mortgage specialists. They're trying to cut down their staff, and they want you to click on an app. They want you to go to your phone and just click the renew button. And they're going to tell people, hey, if you don't do that, we're going to offer you a higher rate. If you want to come into the bank, the rate's going to be higher. They're actually trying to force people to go to the app so that they can take everyone else out and just say, hey, just click the button.
Oh yeah, and that's when RBC, we mentioned before that they've doubled down and they have a mortgage renewal app, or maybe it's a section within the RBC app where you can just renew simply that way. So yeah, things are consolidating in all the industries, or the workforce is being reduced. It might be coming, folks.
The recession was already there. Like it's the tariffs have just exacerbated it, but it's like our economy has already been doing bad, and it's just like we need to innovate. What Alex has been saying is we can't just keep trading real estate. We need to be innovating stuff, making business owners want to bring business to Canada, where a lot of businesses are leaving Canada.
Mm. Our outgoing prime minister, this is one last probably mention of Justin Trudeau. His last act before leaving office, he signed an order in council making some very meaningful changes in the banking industry, especially when it comes to NSF fees. So these changes include capping NSF fees at $10, and that no NSF charges are within 2 business days of each other. So it can't be double tacked on extra fees. And he's requiring banks to alert clients when their account balances fall below zero.
Yeah.
And for banks to publicly disclose the amount of NSF fees charged and the number of clients impacted, total annual revenue from their fees on their quarterly and annual earnings. So we've been slagging Trudeau for a long time. I actually think this is a great idea, and
100%. And that's what I mean.
His last act of goodness before he left.
I just can't believe, how was it not a requirement that they have to alert you when your balance is already at zero? Like that to me that should have been something before, and then the double charges and everything. And also, I know when they mess up that they make it really hard for you to get that rebated, to get that money back. They say, oh, it was an internal error. No, it was your guys' system that messed up. And I think this is a great thing. It should have happened to me long time ago. I'm interested to know, is it just solely going to be the banking industry? Because when Alex and I look at commitment letters from private lenders and stuff, they charge NSFSL. Theirs start at $200. If you miss a payment, again, a private's a little bit different because it's an investor and they want their money, but their NSF start at $200.
Yeah. I wonder if there's going to be any regulation there. So we gotta get into some real estate news here. This is a real estate show, right?
Yeah, and so let's first jump into the Canadian real estate sales fell to 0.6 in January as the holiday shopping surge wore off and tariff concerns weighed on consumer confidence. It's so funny. I remember going into the end of 2024 and we're all like, 2025, we're going back to normal. Everything's going to be less crazy, and could that be any different?
Yeah. It's almost like 2025 is COVID 2.0. Not the same way, but a new kind of uncertainty kind of thing, like where people aren't doing anything. It feels like we're in that period where we were locked down for, was it 6 weeks we were locked down for, or 8 weeks or something like that?
I don't know. I feel like long now.
I remember there was a period where I had to cut my own hair.
Yeah.
And I let my hair grow out, and I'm like, oh man, this looks bad. And normally I get my hair cut every 2 weeks. And it was during lockdown, I got my own hair clipper set from Amazon, and I cut my hair twice. First time I got my wife to cut it, And yeah, I didn't really like how she did it. So second time, I did it myself. And
Did you like
yeah,
it or what?
oh yeah, I liked it because I did it myself. But it took me an hour and a half because, of course, with all the cleanup, we had a garbage bag. We cut a hole in it just to create our own thing, and it was, the cleanup was terrible. But when things opened up again, I got my first haircut. It was like, man, did we take the simple things in life for granted? Getting a haircut was amazing. But yeah, that's just what kind of reminds me this year of is just a weird, uncertain year where it's like you feel like a calm. There's a quiet in the air, and you feel a calm before the storm, kind of thing. Where what's happening.
That's right. Again, these data get skewed so much in a sense because it's solely based on a lot of our data comes from Vancouver and Toronto, and those are just doing horrible. In some of the smaller markets, we're in multiples. Like it's busy. There's homes being bought. There's homes being sold. It just depends, obviously, in the market. But Toronto and Vancouver, not good.
Yeah. Like all our real estate sales is pretty much the same. We're not going to read this out, but pretty much it's par for the course. Toronto is suffering more than Vancouver in terms of, especially when it comes to condo sales. They're down 27%, whereas Vancouver, BC is probably more in the 10 to 15% range. And of course, prices have dropped too. But again, Montreal, and unlike the other small towns, they are bucking the trend. They saw sales rose in February by 7%, and it continues to be a seller's market there. So I guess it's because their real estate is considered affordable compared to Vancouver and Toronto.
Yep. And that's the thing. I wonder if investors have been flocking there in a sense too, because of the prices, but that's also where Montreal is now tightening its short-term rental rules, allowing home rentals only during peak tourist season, which I mean, that makes sense. That's again, that definitely doesn't seem, and listing outside this period face fines of $1,000 a day as the city fights illegal Airbnb rentals. And probably the best thing is like, even for, we have smaller communities that they live and breed because of tourism. There's not enough hotels. And so people can't even do the Airbnb. And so there is no more tourism.
Yeah, I can definitely see. It's almost like Montreal has been lagging behind, and they're now going through that period where it was almost like 2015 for Vancouver, where, or between the 2015 to 2018-19 phase, where real estate is shooting up and they're doing what they need to do to kind of like clamp it down or slow down this runaway train. So yeah, they're following along and they've been lagging behind. Now, when it comes to Vancouver, lost in all this tariff stuff, BC has raised the speculation and vacancy tax to 3% for foreign homeowners and 1% for Canadians. Now, this comes as BC faces a $10 billion deficit for 2025 and 26, and we're expecting larger deficits in 27, 28. Yeah, and then like I don't think any of my clients took advantage of this, but BC has also abruptly ended its secondary suite incentive program, citing financial uncertainty. Of course,
I'm gonna tell you this. I think they're saying that to be like, oh, it was a good program, but it was a horrible program. No one used it. I have a couple people that have it. Like I helped them get other mortgages, and they used it. It is like the most restrictive thing ever. And they also don't even ever answer calls of, hey, how do I pay this thing off? What do I need to do? It was just a horrible program.
Yeah. They did cite that the federal government is going to launch a similar program. Yeah. I sure hope not. Man, how many programs have government announced to try to stimulate things, and it was useless and something never came.
There's more sense, a higher amount. Like the BC one was only 40,000. So unless your place was fully ready and you just needed to put a kitchen and stuff, you can't build a suite for 40,000. It's then the one for the government. And again, we heard about this a year ago. It was meant to come out. Like Chrystia Freeland talked about it. It was meant to be 80,000 at a 2% rate. We still don't even know what's happening. Lenders don't even have it available yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what? We have a little bit more time, but BC has announced that he's announced that he is scrapping the consumer carbon tax effective April 1st. yay, because we're in BC. This will effectively, we should expect lower gas prices and home heating bills. So being in
Better.
BC, yes, right now, I don't know where you guys are listening across Canada. I believe we have the highest gas prices in all of Canada. Right
What's
now
your
in the lower mainlands, it's $1. It's fluctuating between $1.76 to $1.82 for 87 gas. That's, oh my Lord. Like,
yeah.
I'd
I mean,
like to hear from those in Alberta. What are you guys paying for gas?
I think I hear some places like in Manitoba and stuff, it's like $1.13.
Oh,
And I would honestly put money on it that prices aren't going to come down, Alex. I'm going to say that they're going to say that, oh, tariffs. And yeah, I would bet after April 1st, the prices will not be low.
oh man, I hope so. I hope so. I hope you're wrong for all of our sake. But there was talk of, hey, our current gas could go from $1.75 down to $1.45.
That would be amazing. What did we have during COVID? I think at one point, I think we even hit below $1, didn't we, for a little bit? I can't remember. Did we see that?
Maybe. I think it was pretty close to maybe like around $1.26 or something like that.
I can't remember.
Remember the days? Yeah, during COVID when it was lockdown. When it was lockdown, it felt like we were living in the apocalypse. When I was driving across the Port Mann, this is one of the largest bridges in the world. Crossing the Port Mann, it was dead. The roads were clear. I drove downtown. It was like a ghost town. Nothing. If any of you guys watched Walking Dead or something, it felt like the zombie apocalypse. Like the city is like nothing. And honestly, it was glorious because there was no rush hour. You just get to downtown. Normally from Surrey to downtown is 45 minutes. I got to downtown in 20.
That's where it would be. We're going to talk about one other thing here, just because I want us to make sure that we bring a light to this. Just because I actually got realtors messing at us. Is there's a fake mortgage broker that raked in over $6 million. There's 23 realtors that were charged and $500 million in shady loans exposed. Now, in total, they're saying that's about 875 fraudulent mortgage files processed over nearly a decade. And what they mean by like fraudulent is these are like people, this guy was doing fake income documents. And this is why people, if you get upset that your mortgage broker, your bank is saying, hey, I need to see every single page of your NOA. Why does this page look weird? It is because there's people out there that have been doing these things like this, that every person gets thrown under the same light, that everyone is out there doing something illegal. And it's, again, this could have been stopped if we would have direct access to CRA. Like, it is the easiest thing to cut out right away. I'm going to say this, the government and the banks, they don't really want it to go away. They make money on that. For one, they make money for when people come in from foreign, they pay the land transfer tax. The bank make money. And so this one, it was just they couldn't keep not hiding it, but it was finally enough of people. This needs to be like taken down.
Yeah. Adding to this, basically fake mortgages. Yeah. They were doing fake income documents and savings just to secure all these fake mortgages. This unregistered broker collected $6 million in fees for doing this. It's basically like, we don't have the income to qualify. I could do it for you. I'll create the documents for you. You just got to give me a fee, whether it be 1 or 2% of your mortgage amount. And the story actually conclude, and this boils my blood. There was no criminal charges laid to this unregistered broker.
It doesn't make any sense. And again, we even have the realtors as well, like specifically showing, oh, we'll get you those fake documents. Don't worry about it. It's like, how is there no criminal charges for this?
Yeah, I read more into this finding. 12 brokers or agents actually reached settlements with the BC Financial Services Authority for working with this unregistered broker. I am going to name him. His name is Jay Chowdhury. Yeah, but he's not charged. But everyone else either got fined, suspended license, or banned for life, whether they were agents or unlicensed assistants or whoever that was involved. I wonder, this really got me thinking, like, was he able to escape charges by just coming clean and just like, you won't get charged if you share the book. It's almost like we have bigger fish to fry. Like when you're thinking of the drug cartel, we don't want the lowly drug dealer. We'll drop your charges, or not drop it, or we'll give you a reduced thing if you narc on the whole cartel kind of thing. I wonder if that's the case there.
From what I saw is like the BCFSA also, like our financial board here in BC, like also tried to give stuff to the police and they won't investigate. They wouldn't investigate. They just said, that's not us to deal with. So what are you meant to deal with then?
Yeah, I even give props to Ron Butler, who spread this to light, even to Parliament. Thank you that they started this talk about CRA, direct CRA linkage, income verification, but it's just been sitting. And because of this political thing, it's just been on the back burner. And whoever gets elected,
it could just be turned on instantly.
Exactly. The IRS has it in the States. They've had it for the last 15 years. We need to have this in Canada. And because it's not happening, like it's going to show the light, like maybe the politicians and the bankers don't want it because they're just making too much money. We need a fair system in Canada because yes, it may be a small segment of the population, but that small segment directly affects everything else and it cascades from everybody else.
And these are not small loans. We're talking about 500 million in mortgages. These are in the Vancouver area. We're talking like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Like these for sure push the prices up.
All right, folks, our episode is running way too long. So let's put a wrap up on this episode. Do you have any closing thoughts, Alex?
No, just make sure you get the right advice from someone. Make sure if something seems weird, if someone's not talking about fees, if they're not showing you like what's all the cost and you find out at the end of it, there's a fee. You need to have someone that's being transparent with you. Make sure that you know what's going on. Don't just listen to someone says, don't worry, I'll take care of it.
Another thing that kind of got me going too is, folks, if you are listening to advice, make sure you are listening to a qualified professional. A lot of times we have clients where their mom and dad or uncle or aunt are helping them out and they think they know what they're doing. Or you bring your parents to the home inspection and then they're like, oh, when I bought 20 years ago, it wasn't like this. I shouldn't need to provide documents. When I got my mortgage 20 years ago, they didn't ask me for all those documents. Be careful who you get your advice from. Okay. Listen to the people that are doing it, involved in the industry. What worked today in the past may not have worked today. But the financial landscape changes all the time, and we're here to help you navigate through it. All right, folks.
Exactly.
Again, folks, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate all the support. Please share and support us, and keep this conversation going because we're enjoying every second of the way.
Awesome. Have a good one there, Alex.
Folks, have a good one. On behalf of Alex Shanks, I'm Alex Pang. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Now, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow us. Please give us a 5-star rating. You can even send us an email because we want to know what you guys want to hear about. That's what we're here for. Reach out anytime.